Hi everybody, this is Warren Herman, and today we are going to make a quick video about being able to understand reality and using this metaphor of the forest and the trees. This morning I was thinking about the idea that everything in the life of the church, everything in the scriptures, everything along those lines is in the pattern of fractals. So, for example, fractals are something we find in nature where the parts reflect the whole. And so you could see this, for example, as I want to zoom in here on this plant, you could see how, in a way, the branches at the base, they kind of divide off and they kind of split off. And then you also see these smaller branches that divide off, much like the ones that are bigger, dividing off the more central stems down there. It's not the greatest tree that we can look at, but maybe we use this one. You could see how these trunks split off, and then there's other things that split off, and then there's other things that split off of that, and there's a pattern, in the whole thing, that there's kind of an orderly pattern, and you can see how the different types of trees have the same types of patterns, and we can see how, in a way, this area of forest here is very much also like, the forest is made up of the trees, and the trees all, and if you look at it from the air, if you've ever seen, if you've ever flown over the country, you can kind of almost see like a pattern, as if it's almost like a pattern, like almost as if the forest is kind of like one organism in a way. It kind of looks like that, when you're kind of flying over it. And there are, I think, scientific ways in which roots kind of are in touch with each other and stuff like that. So there's kind of weird stuff along those lines. But what we're going for here is this idea that, in our lives, sometimes we can miss the forest for the trees, and sometimes we can miss the trees for the forest. So what do I mean by this? And what does this mean for our lives and how we really understand our world around us and the data that we take in? So I think the thing is that when we start out, for example, in any type of a relationship or any type of situation, like let's say there's a kid who's born into a family. The traditional way is, the little kid thinks that the parents are perfect or very powerful in some way. So for example, when I was a little kid, I remember I got sick. And I wanted my mom. I said, "Mommy, make it stop." So I thought Mommy could make it stop because parents are all powerful when you're a small child. Eventually, you realize, there's that early phase of parents are perfect gives way sometimes to the adolescent phase of my parents are the most uncool or terrible people on earth. And then eventually that can lead to another phase, a mature phase, in which you say, okay, my parents are not perfect, but my parents are not the worst. My parents are people. And there becomes an integration of knowledge there, like a kind of way in which we take the best of my parents are perfect, the best of my parents are the worst, and we take the two truths there and we kind of order them to each other. Like, my parents are not perfect, but I'll respect them because they're my parents. But it doesn't mean that okay, like it doesn't mean like okay. I'm just gonna do a dumb analogy here. Like, okay, my dad is an axe murderer. Okay, I shouldn't be like going around saying, okay, my dad's the dumbest guy on earth. That wouldn't be the nicest thing to do, but it might be like, okay, I have to only visit my dad in jail. Like, I don't give him an axe, or something like, I would hang out with him with axes, I'm just making it a stupid analogy here, but you could see how there's this maturation through these three phases of, of things. And so I think that's very important. And what we want to understand is that when we are dealing with knowledge operates the same way. We can see these three phases of knowledge as the creation, the fall, and the redemption. We could see this, this kind of, these three phases where, in the early, the deep primal history of humanity, we have this holistic knowledge of God, this knowledge of the pattern of the whole in Eden. And then through taking the fruit, we fall into a kind of analytical knowledge of this kind of knowledge of good and evil. This discriminating and analytical faculty becomes the predominant thing that we fall into. And then what we have to recapture is this. We ultimately have to recapture is a kind of way, how could we kind of blend these things, or how could we function? Well, things get redeemed. We actually see the next time we see and their eyes were opened in the scriptures is when Christ reveals the Eucharist They saw him in the breaking of the bread, and their eyes were open. It's like you see that it is in redemption that our eyes are opened again, or that these things all make sense together. Jesus also teaches we must be as wise as serpents and as pure as doves. As pure as a dove, I believe, refers to this idea of having to have this proper, heartfelt, and this probably heart-centered, sacramental, and holistic vision of reality. And the wise as a serpent means we have to have our understanding, our analytical faculty alive as well. And this also comes about when we see when St. Paul teaches us about the three levels of the mind. He talks about this is sometimes translated as spirit, soul, and body. You could also translate the Greek as nous, psyche, and I don't know if they use soma, or they use sarx. So it's like these three levels. And the thing is that we want to we have this necessity of, when we use we have to use the psyche in union with the nous, the analysis in union with the holistic sight. And the problem is, in many things, we miss the forest for the trees. That's why, let's say you find something in the Bible, and so here's a broken branch, for example. You say, okay, well, obviously this is not a forest because there's a broken branch here. But the thing is, that's the kind of thing that happens when you have people split away from the Catholic faith for Orthodoxy, or the Catholic faith for Protestantism, because you find something that seems out of joint with the understanding that this is the forest. Like, see here, this is the forest. And the thing is, it's like when we realize, if you look at the pattern, the biggest pattern you can have in Christianity is Catholicism. Like, Catholicism is a pattern that can include all the other patterns. Like, you have all the things from Orthodoxy inside Catholicism. As far as I could tell, that's the way it is. You have all the things there, so you can kind of see that Catholicism is clearly, if we are going to be able to really see the forest, Catholicism is the forest. Everything else is saying, oh, look, I have a broken branch here. I don't know how this branch fits. Protestantism might be like, look, this rotten tree here. There's something rotten about this thing. There's some issue with the church. Okay, that means this is not a forest. So we zoom in on it and say, look, there's no forest. And that's what happens when we get stuck on any details, or we say, oh, I can't harmonize. Look at all this white. Look at this stuff here. Then that's snow. Okay, I can't harmonize with that. The fact that this is a forest. I can't harmonize that. So the thing is, it's like we end up missing the forest for the trees. We say, okay, this tree, I don't know if that tree really matches as much as that tree does with the forest. It's like we end up missing the forest for the trees, not being able to integrate the details into the whole. And that's why we split away from the church, because we split because there's schism, because our mind is caught in the analytical mind. We're always meant to organize things into a whole, we're meant to subalternate, we're always supposed to use this hermeneutic of redemption. This hermeneutic of redemption where, we kind of organize the analytical based on the holistic. That's the same hermeneutic of, Christ taking on nature, and so on human nature. So I hope this is helpful to you, and I hope you enjoy this video, and that this is helpful in thinking about a number of different things in your life.